Western script, Eastern reality. This is the algorithm. Rewrite the rules. 2026. The global order is undergoing a bloody liquidation. After Trump returned to the White House, his first move wasn't to open fire, it was to open the valves. By seizing control of Venezuela and forcing Saudi Arabia to ramp up production, he has locked global oil prices below $50 a barrel. For nations that survive on high oil prices, this isn't an economic issue, it's a decapitation strike. Tonight, inside this bunker that doesn't exist on any map, 3 men are sharing the last loaf of bread. They call each other strategic partners. But in their hearts, they know that once the dollar's noose tightens enough, someone at this table will be sacrificed. No one will be saved.
President Xi, thank you for making the time to come here in such weather. I heard winter in Beijing is exceptionally cold this year. I wonder, is it a natural disaster? Or is it due to certain external pressures causing energy shortages?
President Putin, the climate in Beijing has always been under our control. On the other hand, Mr. President, I am more concerned about your rate of attrition on the Ukrainian front. Mr. Trump recently mentioned on social media that he has prepared an oil for peace liquidation list. I wonder if you have had a chance to review it.
Trump is just a greedy real estate agent. He took Maracaibo because he wants to suck our blood, to subsidize his so-called America First. President Xi, I'll be direct. Our ESPO crude pipeline is operating at a loss every single day. Your banks rejected 5 of our RMB settlements last week, citing compliance reviews. Didn't we agree on cooperation without limits? Or have you, Mr. President, already begun considering the tariff exemption terms Trump is offering?
President Putin, the prerequisite for no limits is no risk. Trump is playing a game of collective punishment now. If our banks are kicked out of the global system for helping you settle oil, will the livelihoods of my 1.4 billion people be protected by your outdated T-90 tanks? We are in the same boat, but if this boat is leaking, I must ensure my section of the watertight compartment is sealed first.
Chairman Kim, did you hear that? President Xi seems to think he can survive this storm alone. He thinks that as long as his compartment is sealed tight enough, Trump's torpedoes will only sink you and me.
President Putin, President Xi. I have always respected my 2 older brothers. But both of you seem to forget who is actually blocking the torpedoes for you. If I hadn't maintained high alert on the peninsula, Trump's carriers would already be docked in Dalian or at the gates of Vladivostok. You two are haggling over oil profits, while I haven't even seen the fuel reserves for the next quarter.
Chairman, your alert comes at a price. The food and supplies Beijing provided over the past year have already exceeded your allocated quota. We sit here today to solve problems, not to listen to your extortion. The president needs cash, you need oil, and I need a black market loop that can completely bypass the US dollar.
The air in the bunker grows thin. President Putin feels power slipping away. President Xi feels the system collapsing. And Chairman Kim just wants to scavenge the last piece of gold from the ruins. They address each other by their official titles, but in each other's eyes, they don't see allies. They see a check that will eventually be cashed at someone else's expense.
President Xi, if I shut down the Eastern pipeline, half of your factories will stop tomorrow. Are you sure you want to continue playing this compliance review charade?
Mr. President, if you are willing to hand over joint management of the key ports along the Northern Sea route, I can turn the RMB tap back on tonight. And Chairman, the missile navigation chips you want, they can be delivered there as well. Gentlemen, what do you say?
President Xi, you want joint management of the Arctic ports. In the Russian dictionary, joint management is usually just an elegant way of saying concession. You want to turn our final security perimeter into a transit station for your electric vehicles and shipping containers. You must understand, this is the only gateway for our nuclear submarines to enter the Pacific. If I hand over the keys, my seat in the Kremlin becomes unstable.
President Putin, the stability of your seat in the Kremlin doesn't depend on a few ports. It depends on the crowds currently queuing for bread. Trump's Treasury Department has already listed you as a target for liquidation. What I brought today isn't a lease. It's an insurance policy. We provide the capital to expand the ports. We install our Beidou navigation systems. Officially, it's commercial cooperation. But in reality, it turns this route into an eastern inland sea that US warships cannot enter.
Inland sea. Is it your inland sea or ours? If I agree, will your China-Europe railway completely bypass US dollar settlements? The food, the drone components, and the consumer goods needed to maintain my people's living standards. Can they flow limitlessly through these ports without touching that damned S system?
As long as the control of the ports is in our hands, settlement is merely a numbers game. We will use the Shadow Loop, an internal credit system anchored by crude oil and rare earths. No dollars, no exchange rate volatility, only bartering. President Putin, you lose a piece of sovereignty, but you win back your ticket to stay in the war.
My two older brothers are discussing big business, but you seem to have forgotten that if these goods are to reach Pyongyang, or if they need to evade the scans of US satellites, you need a hidden hand. President Xi, regarding the navigation chips you mentioned, I need the first 5,000 sets immediately. Also, President Putin, those Su-35 fighter jets you promised, why are they still sitting in the hangars at Vladivostok?
Chairman, planes need fuel. You don't even have fuel. Taking the planes would just give you expensive scrap metal. Once President Xi opens the tap, you will see what you want.
Mr. President, I don't like waiting. If my tanks don't have fuel to run, I'll have no choice but to send my millions of soldiers to your Far East to work for food. When that happens, you won't just be facing Trump. You'll be facing my millions of very hungry subjects. Do you think President Xi will help you feed them?
No one at this table is clean. President Xi wants Russia's ports to complete his energy map. President Putin wants China's money to survive. And Chairman Kim is a fox waiting to bite a chunk out of the falling giants. They call each other comrades, but their hands are beneath the table, gripping their respective guns.
Enough. Trump's timeline won't wait for our internal friction. Mr. President, by 6 a.m. tomorrow, if I don't see a draft for the joint management of the Northern Sea route, my banks will officially announce an indefinite suspension of all Russian operations. As for the chairman, the chips you want will arrive with the first shipment of crude. But you must ensure that when the US Navy drills in the South China Sea next month, your missile tests deviate into their warning zones right on time to draw the pressure away from me.
President Xi, you truly are an extraordinary businessman. Since we must all survive under Trump's noose, I will sign this agreement. But remember, If I discover you have reached any private deal with Washington to reduce our energy exports, I will personally blow up these ports. We will all return to the Stone Age together.
Mr. President, we are now a community of shared future on the same boat. Betraying you brings no profit to my business. For now, at least.
The pact is made, but the chill inside the bunker does not dissipate. They know this so-called Shadow Pact has only delayed the execution by a few months. When the blizzard outside stops and the sun rises, the real betrayal will begin. Because in Trump's world, there is only one winner. And in this bunker, there may not even be a single survivor.
President Xi thinks he took my ports today. He thinks he won. He believes he can trade a few RMB credit notes for the gateways of Great Russia. He is naive. He sees only business, while I see only survival. Listen to me. Send word to the garrisons in Murmansk and Pevek. Before the Chinese engineering teams arrive, rig the foundations of every deep water pier with physical sanitization protocols. I want explosives buried under every inch of that land. If there comes a day when Beijing tries to trade these ports with Washington, or attempts to blackmail me by cutting off our energy, you press that button yourself. We can be poor together. We can return to the Stone Age together. But I will never allow someone to stab me in the back and walk away with clean hands. Furthermore, contact our silent channels in Berlin and Paris. Tell them that although we signed a pact with Beijing, if the EU is willing to bypass Trump and provide us with chips, Russian gas can accidentally find its way back to the Western pipelines. Remember, it hasn't been decided yet who the real dealer is at this table.
President Putin is growing old. He is still obsessed with land, tanks, and that outdated notion of sovereignty. He doesn't understand that in this era, once you control settlement and logistics, you control the heart of your opponent. These port authorizations are not leases. They are the leash I have placed around Russia's neck. Notify the Ministry of Energy. Initiate the Arctic Alternative Plan immediately. What we want is not a strong Russia. We want a broken, hungry frontier that has no choice but to rely on us for survival. As long as they need our shadow loop to buy instant noodles and spare parts, Putin will never dare to flip the table on me. Also, contact our old friends in Washington. Leak some processed intelligence to Trump. Tell him Putin and Kim are plotting a radical military move against Guam. We must make Trump believe that only we can restrain these two madmen. As long as he needs us as the mediator, his 25% tariffs will remain nothing more than a scrap of paper. This is called killing with a borrowed sword. Let them bleed in the front. We will harvest the net in the back.
One wants to treat me like a watchdog. The other wants to use me as a human shield. They think a few barrels of oil and some silicon wafers can buy my life? Once the precision of these missiles is calibrated, my target list won't just include Washington. If Beijing or Moscow tries to sell me out, my warheads can turn around at any moment. I don't have their baggage. I don't have 1.4 billion mouths to feed, nor vast territories to protect. I only have this life and a few hundred atomic bombs. Pass the order. Next month's test flight will not deviate, according to President Xi's instructions. I want a precision intrusion into the U.S. military exercise zone. I want to make these waters as murky as possible. Only when the great powers fight to the death does a gambler like me stand a chance to sweep the board. Trump likes big deals? I'll give him a nuclear nightmare he can't refuse, one that will keep him awake at night.
The secret meeting in Vladivostok is over, but the prologue to Betrayal has just begun. On this ship of traitors called Survival, there are no allies, only betrayals yet to be cashed in. Do you want to know how this Shadow Pact finally plunges the world into fire? Do you want to see who will be the first to be pushed overboard?
If you want to witness the final iron will of Russia, like this video. In this war without light, we need more witnesses.
In the game of great powers, only those who see the truth survive. Subscribe to this channel. Join our shadow loop and see through this collapsing old world.
The show is just beginning. Don't watch it alone. Share this video. Tell the world that when order vanishes, chaos is the only real power.
When the blizzard stops and the sun rises, the real reckoning begins. We will see you in the next episode.